feet. Anyone else?
446 feet.
446. 50. 350.
43.
43.
746.
1 mile. 30. 1 mile. 30. Hey, you know what you're selling? You're a freaking 30.
That tower from the ground up to the platform you were standing on, just to the platform.
30.
75 feet. 75 feet. I heard a couple of you pretty close. Maybe a more important question. Notice how I wait till we're back on the ground for this one. How old do you think that tower is?
40.
I'll give you a hint, it wasn't here during the battle, so it is less than 153 years old.
46 years old.
43 years old.
46. 46.
72.
You know what? I'm going to go 80, 89. 89.
That tower was
75.
built
Last year.
the year this all became a national park.
1914.
1895. How old's that tower?
Old.
No.
95, 2016.
And that goes
It's
now.
121 years old, give or take. I once made the mistake of telling that to a group before they went up, and you know what?
No one went
They
up.
wouldn't touch the thing, exactly. So I wait you're safely on the ground before I spring that one on you. Now, there were no towers here during the battle. There was no need for them, everybody. This is just farmland, USA. So imagine you're one of these high-ranking generals. And like most of you guys, these generals never laid eyes on this ground in their life until the day of the battle. So basically, they were as lost here then as you are now, is what it amounts to. So if you want to get a view of the battlefield to make critical decisions, what would you do?
Climb a tree.
There are no to climb trees, roofs of buildings,
Do a backflip.
church steeples make wonderful observation towers.
Do a backflip.
But the highest points around here are
Trees.
Backflip.
hills. There we go.
What about the trees on the hills? Those are higher. I like trees and hills.
All right, everybody. Now, as you look at the two hills on your left, little one, big round top, which one's which?
The bigger one's big round top.
Little's on the... Okay, very, very good. Just testing you. Now, the two hills, which one's more important in our story?
The small one.
The big one.
Who says big round top? Who says little round top? Who doesn't have a clue again? All right, I like your honesty. Who said big round top? That's wrong.
Ah, what's up?
It was the
Little one.
smaller hill. Now, folks, I got a problem with that. I always thought the bigger hill's more important on a battlefield, so please help me. Why was Little Round Top so much more important?
Location.
Well, talk to me. Yeah. What is the big difference? Well, that end. Look carefully at the two hills. What's the big difference? Can you see it? Sometimes in the morning it's a little hard to see.
One was closer this
About a year
way.
before the battle, the whole side of Little Round Top was timbered off. The farmer sold it for lumber to make a buck. Just to throw this out here, since there is a connection. During the Civil War, Pennsylvania was lumber capital of the world. Now, I'll admit, it was centered up around Williamsport, PA, which today is known for...
Eating.
Food.
there used to be breweries back there in the 30s.
Oh, that's right.
Before the Depression. No, Little League Baseball. You guys should know that. Well, in the end, we're nowhere near Williamsport, but that's up in the mountains. So this guy's cashing in for the demand for lumber. Now, just to throw this out here, after the Civil War, where did lumber capital move to?
Georgia.
No.
Florida.
You guys should know this.
California.
Michigan.
Wait, no,
Michigan,
Virginia.
I got it.
exactly,
The
yeah.
UP.
I'm not
Oh,
sure where
God.
it was centered for sure. Maybe around Big Rapids, but I don't know that for sure, so
Well,
don't
yeah.
quote me there.
Yeah,
But the
it's like
thing
that
is,
thing.
folks, you know, there is a continuity here between Pennsylvania and Michigan. Well, look back at the hill. By cutting those trees down, the farmer created one beautiful view. From up there, you can see the state of Maryland. Now, it sounds real dramatic, but it's only about 7-8 miles down the road. Well, what are you going to see from Big Round Top?
Everything.
Nothing.
Nothing but trees. What are you going to see from Little Round Top?
Everything.
Everything. So there's your fundamental difference, everybody. But here's the added bonus. Now, there were no roads up there, either hill. But with great difficulty, the Northern Army discovered what could they drag to the top of that smaller hill.
Cannons.
You got it, everybody. You put artillery up there with a commanding view and a range of up to
2 miles.
2 miles, some of them. It completely
2.2
dominates
miles.
this end of the battlefield. What would have happened if the South had captured that hill and gotten their cannons up there?
They would have won.
They may very well have won the battle and potentially the whole
War.
war. So on July 2, General Lee, like we said, decides to attack this end of the line. Just to kind of summarize this very quickly, the attack doesn't begin until 4 p.m. So it shows you the time and, goes into the preparation and marching men to get here and on and on and on. So 4 p.m., what time do you think it's going to get dark that day?
7.
One more.
6.
8 o'clock. So there's only 4 hours of daylight to pull this thing off, and yet amazingly, July 2 is the bloodiest day of the battle. So these fields and woods off to your left and kind of back behind your left shoulders actually are some of the bloodiest acres in all of American history. And it all boiled down to who could control that little hill. Now, folks, look left again. See those farm buildings over there?
Yeah.
I almost mentioned this earlier, but I thought we'd wait and just bring it up now. Most farm buildings served as what during and after the battle?
Medical hospitals.
Temporary field hospitals. Why would they use a dirty old barn as a hospital?
Because they didn't have room.
It's
there.
It's
big.
It has a roof cover, and of course you have a well or spring with lots of fresh
water.
And of course most barns will have hay and straw that makes wonderful
beds.
Bedding. Exactly. So for all those reasons, every farmer around is going to, for miles, is going to be pressed into service as a field hospital. These are no exceptions. There's another one in the background. You should see it. Again, you can see the park ranger vehicle there now. We do, again, employees of the park live here. Now, the thing is, folks, I don't really like to get into this too much, but I think it's important that you do understand. Remember what we said? What was the size of these musket balls? The caliber? Do you remember?
About the size of your thumb.
Yeah, 58 caliber was kind of standard. It did vary, some bigger, some smaller, but, about the size of your thumb, forefinger, whatever. Well, you know what they did to human bone and flesh?
They turn them into bullets.
There's an old story. If, God forbid, one of those bullets went all the way through you, the entry wound is as big as your thumb. Entrance wound is as big as a fist. It would they would mushroom. You all know what that means.
It would shred you.
They would flatten out, and they would just tear bone and flesh right out of the body. Whenever they struck bone, they shattered them. That's why they would amputate so many arms and legs during the Civil War. What do you do if your bone is all of a sudden in 12 pieces? It will never knit back together in that era. So if they bandaged up and sent you on your way, what would happen? Infection, gangrene, blood poisoning, and death. So to prevent that, what did they do?
Amputate it.
Yeah, I had an ancestor here who got shot in the human jaw, but right there, right in the jaw. You know what a bullet does to a human jawbone?
Whew, it's gone.
It shattered it. He ended up getting 2 inches of his jawbone cut out. He lived like that for 9 years before it killed him. So in the end, everybody, I want you all to understand the very deadly nature of these projectiles.
Even if you lived, you died.
Well, not necessarily. It depends on where you were struck. That was the whole deal. Flesh, you all know what a flesh wound is, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, most flesh wounds are not, deadly dangerous.
What's
they
a
could
flesh
be at times.
wound?
That's where it don't hit your bones. So, it's an old saying, if you're wounded in the Civil War, you're dead. That's nonsense again. But it was high by our standard. About 20-25% of wounds, 1 in 4, 1 in 5, will perish from the effects of that wound. Now, as a good example, everyone, you show up at a field hospital. You have a head wound. What'd they do with you?
They wrapped you up and sent you back out.
Generally, if you got a head wound, you're not going to do anything further. You're in total delirium. You know what that is?
Look at the horsies.
You're babbling about your mother, and she's 1,000 miles away. What'd they do with head wounds, everybody?
Told you.
Set them aside to die. Don't waste your precious resources. There was nothing they could do for you. What about gut wounds?
Set aside to die.
Same deal. Make them comfortable and set them aside to die. Chest wounds were amazingly survivable, of course. As you all know, there's something real important here. But if the bullet would somehow miss the heart, the arteries, the vein, lung wounds were amazingly survivable. But you'd have all kinds of breathing difficulties for the rest of your life. Is there a question back here?
Yep.
Go ahead, right here.
Is it a custom in Pennsylvania to ride horses?
I didn't hear you. Say it again.
Is it a custom in Pennsylvania to ride horses?
A custom in Pennsylvania to ride horses?
Or a hobby?
It's pretty popular in these parts. See, everyone, when you hear Pennsylvania, everyone thinks of Pittsburgh and steel mills and Philadelphia and a big city and coal mines in between. Well, Pennsylvania is actually a very rural state. And we actually have more roads than any other state in the Union, believe it or not. And it is a rural place, and hence, yeah, you do get a lot of people who enjoy horseback riding, bridle. You have a lot of bridle paths on the battlefield for that reason. And I guess you saw the horses back there earlier, right? Yeah, definitely. It is a hobby, if you want to call it that. Slide in right here. Just take that. Let me say that again. Hold parallel All right, everybody. Now, the reason I'm getting into this whole thing about wounds is because, well, frankly, most people just don't really appreciate how ghastly some of this stuff was. And, you know, the damage that these projectiles did to the human body. And maybe most important of all, just where medical science was in that day and age. You know, again, it's a common misconception. Oh, you're wounded, you're dead. I hear it every day. But by our standards, 20-25% is very, very high. There's no question a lot of these wounds today would easily be, what's the word I'm looking for, survivable. But because of the limited medical science they had back then. You know, one of the most dangerous wounds in the Civil War was a broken thigh bone. Why?
Couldn't heal fast.
Tell me. That's real close to the artery. It has something to do with it, but it's the biggest bone in the body. And when you broke that, you were prone to go into
shock,
and that was almost always a death sentence. So, you know, we don't necessarily think of broken leg bones, you know, deadly, but in the Civil War, it oftentimes was. It was a death sentence. So, you know, just, and yet amazing, you know, like you read stories where, you know, this is a true story, everyone. A New York general, I'm not making this up, a bullet hit him right here. It came out his ear. It destroyed his ear, but it did not affect his eye. Now, he had this big scar on the side of his face for the rest of his life. His bone was all shattered here. But amazingly, his eye was not affected by that wound.
Damn.
It's a flip of the coin, everybody. It's a miracle. It's 1 in a million. But, you know, you'd be amazed. You know, there are accounts where bullets just narrowly miss people's hearts. But they missed it. And they would get up and start walking around, you know, like a few weeks later. It's just all on the chance, the luck of the draw. You know, we talked about that kind of earlier. Now, with that said, everybody, you want to take a little walk out in the woods?
Yes.
No.
We're going to, let me take a quick look at the watch. Yeah, we should be doing pretty good on this. I just want to take you a short walk over here, show you something kind of neat, give you a chance to get off the bus, really, and there is a little story behind all this. So we'll probably be off the bus maybe 10 minutes all told. Grab your cameras and